बद्धेनान्तलिनानतेन शिरसा गात्रैः सरोमोद्गमैः कण्ठेन स्वरगद्गदेन नयनेन उद्गीर्णबाष्पाम्बुना नित्यं त्वच्चरणारविन्दयुगल ध्यानामृतास्वादिनाम् अस्माकं सरसीरुहाक्ष सततं सम्पद्यतां जीवितम्। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. Giving us a lot of insights into the nature of spiritual practices, showing especially how they burn away the lower tendencies in us and bring us to first glimpses of a higher possibility in ourselves and later to anchoring in that true state of ours. This fourth chapter has come a long way, and in the last portion now, we will be taking a look at how Sri Krishna himself praises this highest spiritual knowledge. Last time itself, we took a look at the very famous sloka number 34, where Bhagavad Geetā emphasizes the role of a guru. For 99.9% of people, that guru has to be a living guru in flesh and blood. For some rare case, which is also explained in the form of they must have earned all merit in their previous lives. They must have had a guru in their previous life. Therefore, in this life, apparently, they got enlightened without a guru coming in front of them. Except that 0.1%, all others receive inspiration, guidance, and a lot more from physical gurus. That's a parampara. Evam parampara praptam, says the Shastra. And this 34th verse is how Gita endorses the institution of Guru. It's an institution which has the unique feature that it takes you beyond institution at the right time. This institutionalized structure is a passing phase. As the student gets mature, he or she realizes that there is no duality even between the teacher and the taught. So let me read verse 34 again. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninaha tattvadarshinaha. Jnaninaha, those who have this spiritual wisdom that the ego is false, the separate I is a mere appearance, the truth of everyone's existence is the pure self, which is undivided, which is one in all, and what is more, which is one between man and God also. Those who have that jnana are jnaninaha, but to make it very clear that this is not just a matter of words or bookish knowledge, it is a matter of one seeing it that way. One's very perception changes. To make that point clear, Sri Krishna adds another expression, Tattvadarshinaha. Tattvam pashyanti iti Tattvadarshinaha. Tattva again is a beautiful word. In the second chapter, the Shankara Bhāshya had explained it. Tat means the supreme truth. Literally, Tat means that. And Tattva, thatness. Today, you and I have the sense of our being the body. You may form a word, bodiness. Our being, our feeling. If one morning we are feeling low, we feel we are low. Actually, Vedanta says the mind is low. You are never low. So you are that. So rather than manastva or dehastva or indriyatva, etc., go for tattva. Tattva has the sense of ness. If you think you are the body, you are caught in bodiness. If you are caught in mind, mindness. If you are lazy, don't we say somebody his problem is laziness, or he is caught in laziness. So free yourself from million nesses, thisness, thatness. Go for thatness, that, tat, tattva, upadekshati. Future tense of upadishanti. Upadishanti, they instruct you. Upadekshyanti, they will instruct you. Tadviddi pranipatena. Ask, pranipata is prostrations. Then pradiprasnena, ask questions. Sevaya, and serve. And the service primarily is living the teachings. If all students begin to try to serve the teacher physically, it's practically impossible. The teacher also has rather very limited needs. So, seva is primarily living the teachings. That is the best service. All teachers say, you go by my instructions, be a good person, that is the best service you render to me. So, occasionally at times, certain situation may arise where the students, for a certain period of time, actually serve the teacher in terms of helping her or helping him in her or his activities. Upadekshanti te jnanam. So this is explained once more in an elegant manner by Adi Shankaracharya in the Bhāshya, as some of you must have been following word by word. The style is, the word from the original is given, immediately followed by a synonym. Sometimes that alone is enough. A little explanation where necessary. Tad vidhi. Vidhi. Shankara gives a synonym. Vijanihi. Vidhi is from the verbal root with, and vijani is from the verbal root na, janati. Both mean to know. So for know this truth, and yena vidhina prapyate iti. How is this wisdom to be gained? Acharya adds a precious expression, acharyan abhigamya. So Bhagavad Geetā Bhāshya not only throws light on what is said in the Gita, but connects beautifully with the Upanishads. In the Undaka Upanishad, the well-known mantra does say, Tad Vijnanartham Gurum Eva Abhigachet. Shankaracharya takes care even to use the same verb and the root and the preposition. Acharyam tadvijnanartham gurum eva abhigachet. Here in the Bhashya, abhigamya. So approach competent teachers pranipatena, rakarshena, in a rather intense or very specific way. Nichaihi patanam. Otherwise, the word pata was enough, but nipata, fall down, prostrate, nichaihi patanam pranipata, dirgha namaskaraha, tena, dirgha namaskaraha, elsewhere called sashtanga namaskara. And explaining pariprashnena, Bhashyakara says, pariprashnena means katham bandhaha. Why am I bound? What actually is involved in my feeling endlessly limited, subject to emotions, tossed around by thoughts, always carrying a sense of inadequacy. That is bandhaha. And Vedanta gives wonderful deep insights into how it happens, and the best part of it is how really it's not happening to you, it's happening to an imagined you. The self that gets bound and the bondage are together an illusion. So that is moksha. Get clear, get clarity, and stay by that vision. Stay by that like clear seeing. That is way to moksha. Ka vidya. What actually is involved in gaining this wisdom? Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Shravana of what? Upanishad Vakyas. Don't stop with just stories, however interesting they may be, but go to the Tattva. Kacha avidya. What actually is ignorance? They say we are bound because of ignorance. So is there something called ignorance other than Brahma? And does that independent entity called avidya bind us? Elsewhere in other religions, they have a concept of Satan, Shaitan in India with a Satan. Who is this Satan? How did he manage to remain alive? How could God not finish him off long back? God could have just killed that Satan and made this world a place of unalloyed happiness. But that doesn't seem to be the case. Endlessly, people are caught in avidya. So, call it Satan, call it avidya. Vedanta at least makes it clear that there is really nothing called avidya, but that is part of explanation. In order to explain, we use the word avidya. Really speaking, the one who has avidya and the so-called avidya are all part of a mere erroneous perception. Erroneous perception itself is avidya. Asamyak darshana is avidya. Samyak darshana is vidya. It's not right to say that there is something called avidya that has caused erroneous seeing. So there's a subtlety where even scholars are divided in their opinion, but I personally prefer this outlook. Rather than calling erroneous seeing as the result of avidya, we would prefer to call erroneous seeing itself avidya. Otherwise, two words are given separate places, avidya and adhyasa. Avidya is said to be the cause and adhyasa is said to be the effect. So in that model, which is very popular, the avidya therefore becomes Karana Avidya. It is also called Moola Avidya in that model. However, in the model, in the interpretation which I prefer, attributed to Swami Sachidanandendra Saraswati, there is nothing like avidya which causes erroneous seeing. Rather, erroneous seeing itself is avidya. So some of you may have heard of this interpretation and you may wonder what is the difference. In terms of a mathematical equation, the difference can be explained in this way. According to Swami Sachidanandendra Saraswati, avidya equals adhyasa, whereas according to a large number of other Vedanta teachers, whose number is more, but in all these matters, as you know, number is not the main factor. Among religions also, some religion may have 10 times larger number of followers, and they may be very convinced of their system. But that is not technically or scientifically the basis for that to be true. Anyway, in the popular model, avidya is the cause, therefore karana vidya, moola vidya, and adhyasa is the effect. Adhyasa, mistaking something to be something else, mistaking the rope to be a snake, mistaking a seashell which shines like silver to be silver actually. So that is adhyasa. And in the other model, which once more is adopted by a larger number of people, avidya and adhyasa are not same. Avidya is the cause and adhyasa is the effect. However, Adi Shankara at this place doesn't go into that. As per Sri Swami Sachidanandendra Saraswati, at a number of other places, Adi Shankara has dismissed that division between avidya and adhyasa, and that is a matter of very difficult research. There are great scholars who agree with that and great scholars who disagree with that division or absence of division. So what is avidya? At this point, let us say erroneous seeing. See properly, then what causes fear also goes away, and the entity which you took yourself to be, I am afraid. It's like, I'm afraid of the ghost. And then when you see properly, the ghost also disappears and the fear in you disappears. Vedanta goes a step forward. The very separate entity that was subject to fear, that could ever be subjected to fear, vanishes. All right. Ka avidya, what is ignorance? Iti evam prakarena pariprasnena. Ask questions. Sevaya, Guru Shushrushaya. The word Shushrusha also means serving, and some places it is taking care of a patient, Rogi, Rugna, Shushrusha Kendra. But interestingly, the etymology of the word Shushrusha, etymology means how a word has come, from what verbal root, what terminations, what process of any letter changing in certain ways, etc. So, Shushrusha, you see, shu twice, that's called duplication. And that's what happens in a category of words in Sanskrit, which are in English called desideratives. In Sanskrit grammar, sannanta. So, shrotum icha. Shrotum Icha. All it means is an intense desire to listen. Therefore, Shushrusha, etymologically, it doesn't mean getting food or water or attending to certain other physical and related needs of the teacher. Desiring to listen, desiring to understand. Don't make the learning, what is that? Listening itself as a mechanical habit. So Swami Chinmayananda used to joke. There are some people who are professional listeners. It's their job. Whenever Swamiji came to Bombay or Bangalore, Delhi or Chennai, they are there. Sometimes in the front row, and they nod, they laugh, they smile, but there seems to be no change in them. A kind of dependence, kind of mechanicalness sets in. That's unfortunate. That is some kind of tamas, that is some kind of inertia in them, some kind of strong conditioning. They cannot visualize themselves as independent. They need to be in a certain setting. It's like a child being attached to a toy. The child cannot imagine or visualize herself being far from the toy. Just as a little girl embraces a doll and goes to sleep, right? So attached to the toy. So you must ask yourself, have you got so attached to the setting of a class, etc., the process, the whole uh, procedures? Have you got attached to that? Not that we must hastily stop attending classes, but there has to be a certain inquiry. Self-inquiry, this is also a dimension of self-inquiry. Do I really need to hear again and again? Have I got attached to hearing itself and there is no flame of inquiry in me, etc. Guru Shushrushaya. Of course, here at, at surface it is seva of various kinds. Evamadina prashrayena avarjitaha acharyaha upadekshanti. The acharyas thus approached, thus getting certain students in this manner, they then upadekshanti, katayishyanti dhanam, yatokta visheshanam, which has been described before. Jnanina, among those who have vast scriptural knowledge, kechit yathavat tattvadarshana shilaha apare na. Not all who can give big lectures, who can impress students with some aspects of their personality, not all are really seeing the truth. Therefore, ataha vishinashti, Sri Krishna further specifies. Vishinashti means vishesham karoti. Vishinashti, vishesham karoti. He distinguishes who are these jnanis? Not all. Those who are tattvadarshinaha. This way, a shloka of tremendous spiritual significance, practical significance, and from that Sri Krishna proceeds. Adi Shankara connects us. Ye samyak darshinaha taihi upadishtam jnanam karyakshamam bhavati na itarat iti bhagavato matam. This also is like a additional comment on the 34th shloka which we covered, but it is also a way to connect us with the next shloka. Only such wisdom that is transferred by competent teachers is karyakshamam, is effective. Kshama means capable, karya means to bring out effects. Stephen Covey did not title his famous book, The 7 Habits of Highly Efficient People. He himself goes into the two words, efficient and effective. He says, to be efficient doesn't mean much. You got to be effective. A lot of people in this world are efficient. They do things very fast. But finally, the effect may not be what you really want. Whereas for people who are more thoughtful, more insightful, who are more balanced, they don't concern themselves only with speed. Efficiency is more to do with speed. How much did you do in a certain period of time? So rather than trying to be simply efficient, they say, what is it we actually desire? How I can bring that about? So they are effective. Therefore, karyakshamam means effective. Which wisdom is effective, bringing the desired effect of moksha? Dani bihi upadishtam dhanam karyakshamam na itarat. Not some other which you may draw from the internet or from books or some other. There are so many ways in which you can gather even the so-called Upanishadic wisdom, but it is not effective. Long back, when I was living in California, and the son of one of our members, who was in 11th standard, he wrote an article on Kathopanishad, and his father proudly showed it to me. My son has written this article on Kathopanishad. It's part of some assignment that his teachers have given. And I found the article or the essay also very good. So, some forms of education are such, they train you to study anything and then come out with a nice article. But that may not mean personal transformation. That boy who wrote that article somewhere in 1996, now 26 years have passed, he is, of course, he's a father of children now and a physician, etc. But his life goes on very much like anyone else. So many times it's like IAS officers have been trained. In India, we have Indian Administrative Service. They can handle a whole lot of areas. Sometimes they are chief executive of an agricultural organization, some other time even a scientific body. So they also are vice chancellor temporarily of some university. You wonder, the IAS officer, why is he the vice chancellor? Could they not get a professor who knows the academics better? They are looking for a right person, but till then, this IAS officer ensures the overall administration. He does a pretty good job and so on. In fact, a debated topic. I don't know about abroad, but in India, once in a while that topic comes up. Why are IAS officers given so much powers to take decisions, even to run research institutions, how much funds have to be given and all that? So there are arguments for and against. Because it's true that many scientists who may be extremely good in their particular subject, botany or economics or some other, but they cannot be able to deal with the project, the human resource management and allocation, expenditure control, finance control, etc. They may mess it up sometimes, but it burns, it causes a heartburn to them sometimes. That what research we should do is decided by somebody who doesn't seem to know even the basics of our subject. So they protest. But there are, anyway, so we have here, why did this come? Sri Shankaracharya connecting Karyakshamam Bhavati. So I told about that 11th standard boy who wrote a very impressive article on Kathopanishad, because the intelligence has been trained to recognize the important concepts, recognize the good phrases, technically sound ways of telling things, and then quickly an article is produced, one gets the necessary marks or grades, one moves on. Is there a true change? Not really. So, Karyakshamam Kidrisam Jnanam Bhavati Acharyehi Upadishtam. Someone who is a Samyak Darshi himself or herself, she transmits. So one of the books of John Klein, Klein, there was this gentleman who lived in Santa Barbara on that side, originally from Europe. J.K., not J. Krishnamurti, but John Klein, Jean, I believe it's pronounced as John, in the country from which he originally came. John becomes John and spelled as Jean. Somewhere else it may be Jean, maybe that's a lady's name. John Klein, he was believed to be enlightened, he was believed to be illumined, and he inspired a lot of, especially Westerners. You will see videos by him. Put Jean, character space, and many of his books, including on Who Am I, etc., are very popular. One of his books is titled Transmission of the Flame. I think that was the first book which came to my hands in the mid-90s, and I was much impacted by that. Transmission of the Flame. Another book by him is Who Am I? And there are many. There are audio, video, clips, etc. Transmission. So Acharya Shankara says the flame transmitted by an enlightened teacher alone is effective, not any number of books. Lastly, I have personally met people who had written big books on Vedanta, and I first took a look at the book and was very impressed because there were a lot of things over there which I did not know. But when I actually met the person and spent some time, there was a wide gap between what the book seemed to indicate and how this man actually was. In 5 minutes, the man was expressing his disappointment, how somebody did not recognize him, and somewhere how he was not invited to speak. And so a lot of bitterness in that person. I said, my God, if with all that knowledge that went into a 800-page book this man wrote, if he is not at peace with himself, oh, what's the use of those books? Because that was a scholar, not a tattvadarshi, not a samyakdarshi. Samyakdarshi bihi upadishtam jnanam karyakshamam bhavati. So Stephen Covey's 7 habits of highly effective people. You can use the word karyakshama if you want to put it in Sanskrit. Ativa karyakshamanam sapta abhyasaha. 7 habits. Sapta abhyasaha. Kesham, whose? Ativa karyakshamanam. Those who are highly effective. Problems at home, problems at work, problems in some other domain, financial issues. They know how to go about it. Their way of living is such. That's what Covey shares. And having mentioned Covey 3 times before moving on, I feel tempted to say, I don't know when it came. I think many years have now passed. Covey's book came long back, 1988, but his son, Sean Covey, wrote a book, maybe somewhere around 1999 or 2000. The father was still alive. The son shone Kovi. I tell you, an ideal gift if you want to give a good book as a gift to young people between 15 and 30. Best book is Seven Habits for or of Effective Teenagers. I did it last week. I gave Seven Habits of Highly Effective Teenagers. Got it and gave it to a 12th standard boy. So, being effective. Anyway, let's come back to, I know all of you are more concerned with moksha, not about being effective in this or that matter. So, ज्ञानिभिः उपदिष्टं ज्ञानं कार्यक्षमं भवति इति भगवतः मतं. Bhagavan Sri Krishna thinks so. तथा च सति इदमपि समर्थं वचनम्. So in praise of that knowledge, it should also be said, that's what 35 says. Yajnatva na punarmoham evam yasyasi pandava yena bhutanyasheshena drakshyasi atmani atho mai. Praising this liberating wisdom, not bookish wisdom. Yajnatva, it is such wisdom, knowing which moham naha na yasyasi. You will never come under delusion. You will never come into the grip of false values, wrong judgments, foolish priorities, and so on. So, yasi same as gamishyasi. Yati, yasi is the present tense. Yasyasi is the future tense. O son of Pandu, addressing Arjuna Pandava. Punaha moham evam, in this way. For presently, our Arjuna is the grip of great confusion. He doesn't know what is important, what is not important. In fact, at the root of our suffering, there is moha. We have, because of the past conditionings, attached ourselves to a lot of things which waste our time. We go in circles without reaching anywhere. That's called moha. Moha, in simple terms, is attaching value to things which are not really valuable. Lot of inefficiency in organizations also is when people don't know what actually they should be doing. In that famous book of the 90s, I guess, or before that, 1 Minute Manager, the authors say 3 things. And they say these 3 things need only 1 minute to implement. And one of them is 1 minute goal setting. So very simple, therefore it was an all-time bestseller. I'm sure it's now also it sells. 1 Minute Manager. So to complete the idea, the manager meets his people. Maybe they are people on the production floor. Maybe they are middle-level leaders. He is above them. He calls them and says, tell me, what is it we are going to achieve? What is it we want to achieve this week? And many times you will be shocked. They have made plans for so many things which have no connection to the objective of the company, of their department, etc. They would have got distracted. They would have suddenly got excited about something else. And the manager's job is to make it clear. In 1 minute, he says, look, this week, Monday to Friday, we would like to complete this. And all of you do things related to that objective. So 1 minute goal setting. Likewise, the moha, in apply it everywhere, is where rather than doing what needs to be done, you are very busy with 100 other things. And alas, a large number of people, even very educated, very qualified people, whom you would mistake as very balanced people at first sight, go close to them, get near them, see how they spend the day, and then you will be shocked. I thought she was a wise woman, but whole day she was doing other things. So when she talks high philosophy, but her life is more about lot of mundane things, about which she is so emotional and so on. That's moha. So Arjuna's moha was of one kind superficially, but at the root of it all, Arjuna or any of us have this problem. Our goals, our priorities, our clarity about what is truly important to us in life, well, everything is so messy. Evam moham punaha na yasyasi. That knowledge is what we are talking about. And the second half takes the whole matter to the ultimate height of Advaita. Yena bhutani asheshena drakshyasi atmani. Now you see yourself as a little entity among billions and billions of people. And other creatures too exist. But Vedanta, the realization, will give you an entirely different intuitive vision. I am not in the world is in me. Bhutani, Asheshana, without leaving anyone. Everyone, everybody, everything, Atman. And Bhagavan adds, Ata U Mai. Mai means in me. You will see the entire universe resting in me, in Sri Krishna. That means in the pure self, your pure self, and in Sri Krishna. This is one among the dozens of statements in the Gita where Advaita Vedanta is supported. Atma and God are one. Not the ego, we are not talking about the ego. If anybody raises his hand and says, I am one with Krishna, and the next, in the same breath, you say, I am the CEO of this company. This CEO cannot be one with God. When one sees this CEO, this father of three children, this a list of descriptions of the separate self, all of them bundled together, it is of at the most relative nature, relatively true. My true self, the pure self, asamsari atma, that is one with Paramatma. Drakshasi atmani. So Adi Shankara is delighted to elaborate on this. Yajnatva yat jnanam taihi upadishtam adigamya prapya. Synonyms he provides. Obtaining such knowledge, attaining such understanding. Punaha, again a synonym. Bhuyaha. Punar is the basic word, depending on what the next word starts with. It becomes punaha or punas sometimes. But basic word is punar. Punaha, bhuyaha. Whereas bhuyaha is not bhuyar. Bhuyaha basically is bhuyas. So this is grammar. So again, moham na yasyasi. Yatha idanim. As now you are so confused, you will not be confused after attaining this knowledge. Therefore, strive towards this knowledge. Kincha yena jnanena bhutani asheshena brahmadini stamba paryantani. I talked of the world, human beings and other creatures. Acharya Shankara talks of the whole universe. Chaturmukha Brahma sitting in Brahmaloka, overseeing the entire creation. From that Chaturmukha Brahma, four-faced Brahma, down to Stamba, a stump of a tree, or a crawling ant on the floor. All of them you will see as present in this pure awareness which has no boundaries. You are that Chit, Sat Chit, Atmani, Pratyagatmani, inner self. Mat Sanstani Imani Bhutani. This is said elsewhere in the Gita. All these living beings are in me. Ato api mai Vasudeva. Parameshwarecha Imani. So all are in me, all are in Parameshwara, Supreme God. Now the punchline in Sri Shankaracharya's commentary, Kshetra Kshetrajna Ishvara. Kshetrajna Ishvara, not Kshetra Kshetrajna. Kshetra is the scene. Kshetrajna, the seer in every one of us, Kshetrajna, which is Pratyagatma, and Ishvara, the supreme God principle. Kshetrajna Ishvara. Jivasya antastatvam Kshetrajna. You and I are Jivas. A Jiva, upon being examined, is no other than the pure self. That is Kshetrajna. Kshetram Janati. If the body is Kshetra, the pure awareness that knows the body is Kshetrajna. Kshetrajna Ishvarayoho Ekatvam Sarva Upanishad Prasiddham Drakshasi Ityartha. That is what is Prasiddha means well known. That's well known in the Upanishads, that you will be able to see. And now a couple of beautiful metaphors come towards us. We'll just read the sloka and see the literal meaning here. The 36 says, Acharya Shankara connects us to that sloka saying, Jnanasya Mahatmyam. Mahatmyam, greatness of this wisdom. Api chedasi sapapebhyaha sarvebhya papakrittamah sarvam jnana plavenaiva vrajinam santarishyasi. This shloka compares the liberating insight with a boat. The river may be wide, the water may be deep, but with a boat which is in good condition, you may cross the wide and deep waters. Jnana plava. Vrajina here is sin. We'll talk more about it later. All kinds of negativities. All negativities are vrajina. Even if you are the worst among sinners, you have, let's say you are now 62 years old. In the last 62 years, as you remember, oh, I did something wrong over there. I was so insensitive at some place, this, that. So you say, I am such a Mahapapi. But Sri Krishna assures you, no matter how you lived so far, go for this highest wisdom. Don't waste time in other things. You will find. With a little boat, a man crosses a river with this single insight of who you truly are. You will cross all the suffering. That is the shloka. We'll see a little more, and then there is the beautiful metaphor of Jnana being Agni. This 37 will use that. Just as fire burns all fuel, this liberating wisdom burns away sins. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. A little bit from next day onwards, after the Mahatma, pulled his leg in front of all. Yes, that's the problem. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.